Will your boss accept your Graph AI recommendations? Hi, my name is Yogi Schulz. Thank you to Tiger Graph for inviting me to deliver this presentation at the Graph AI Summit. In this presentation, we'll discuss how to sell your Graph AI recommendations. Too often, data science teams perform their great project work and then crash and burn on the goal line by failing to appropriately describe their work or sell their recommendations to management. Too often, the work of data science team leaves senior executives nervous. Most senior executives are not AI experts, so you need to focus your presentation to sell your AI recommendations. Who am I? I'm Yogi Schulz. I founded Corvell Consulting over 20 years ago. We offer information technology related management consulting. We've executed many project management systems development assignments for our clients, including ones around data analytics and data visualization. I write columns for IT World Canada. So, reading your boss, who'll be in the room when you're presenting your Graph AI recommendations? Who needs to build confidence in your recommendations? Your audience is always consists of senior executives in your organization. The reality is that Graph AI technology is entirely outside their experience domain. Successful executives understand the importance of always looking in control and not inadvertently asking naive or stupid questions. This skill is vital to maintaining their carefully burnished reputations. Here are 3 potential characters that will be in the conference room when you're presenting your Graph AI-derived recommendations. Few bosses will openly reveal their skepticism or their lack of understanding of what you're presenting like this guy. Most bosses are too experienced or polished to reveal their nervousness. Most likely, your boss will become quiet and introspective when they're skeptical or downright insecure because you don't have the background to understand what they're saying. Few bosses will have the confidence to be openly skeptical when they don't really understand what you're talking about. Given that you'll face challenging dynamics, how should you present your work as the leader of the team dominated by data scientists? Focus on describing the business value of your work. Don't just get into the technical details, even though you're proud of that and the work that your team has accomplished. This presentation is not easy for data scientists. That's why we're here today. So we'll spend our time discussing how you can do this much better. Our innovative Justify It TM feature uses Graph AI model to find results that agree with your point of view. Presenting results to management in a positive light is an excellent strategy. Twisting results to conform to a pre-desired outcome is always unethical. So what's your goal in this presentation? We'll start with a brief discussion of the goal. The goal is to briefly describe your work and then sell your recommendations. What questions must you be ready to answer assertively to build your boss's confidence in your team's work? Many questions could pop up. The questions on this list are the ones that we'll talk about today: the accuracy of the business opportunity, advancing corporate strategy, the data you're using, the algorithm accuracy, the model adequacy, understanding data elements, attention to responsible AI, explainability of results. Today, we'll touch on a few example questions in every topic. We don't have time to delve into an exhaustive list of questions, but you'll get the idea. As you work on your project and prepare recommendations for your boss, you'll want to be sure you can answer these non-technical questions. You'll never have to answer them all. We'll talk about how will your answers be evaluated. The way you answer the questions will either add confidence to your recommendations or they'll reduce confidence and increase hesitancy. We'll talk about how you do that so that your audience builds confidence. We'll wrap up with some conclusions and recommendations that will cause your boss to accept your recommendations. So, what's your goal? As you present your findings and recommendations, it's never your goal to crash and burn in front of senior executives. Your goal is always to have your recommendations accepted. Your goals should never be about explaining the cool technology you use to build your model or analyze the data, even though that's a great story. It's never about beating your chest to show off the advanced algorithms, even though you're proud of that work. It's never about reminding everyone how hard you worked, even though that's true. So don't do any of that. Typically, a recommendation is about money to upgrade your solution or to implement it. It's always about the money. To avoid crashing and burning, focus on the business opportunity and the benefits, not the technology wizardry. Remember, your audience has no experience to Graph AI. Make sure your presentation doesn't put anybody on the spot or make them feel awkward. So let's tackle the 8 sets of questions. Here's the first topic: the accuracy of the business problem or the opportunity statement. The confidence your management can have in your Graph recommendations is highly dependent on ensuring that your project team is attacking an accurate business statement. Here are some examples, questions that will illuminate the accuracy of this. How did you determine that the business problem opportunity statement you used to achieve the project approval was reasonably accurate? How did you determine that the Graph AI technology could deliver a credible or appropriate solution for the business opportunity? I hope you noticed that I've crafted these questions to be non-technical so that you can think about answering them in a non-technical way. Such answers will build confidence and understanding in your management audience. Okay, moving on. Advancing the corporate strategy. The goal of your AI project must advance an aspect of the corporate strategy. The value or relevance of your recommendations is highly dependent on the alignment between the project goal and the corporate strategy. Here are some example questions that will illuminate your project's alignment with corporate strategy. Please describe how you ensured that the model's goal is aligned with our business goals or pressing issues. Please describe how you ensured that the project goal advances an element of the published corporate strategy. Data sufficiency. By data sufficiency, I mean volume and variety. Volume is often related to the number of time periods in the history. Data is likely the most critical element of all the Graph AI system components that underlie your recommendations. The confidence your management can have in your recommendations is highly dependent on the data sufficiency found in the data sources used by your project team. Here are some example questions that will illuminate your data sufficiency. How did you determine that the data sources were relevant to the business problem space? How did your subject matter experts determine that the training data for your model was rich enough or not to ensure model accuracy? Okay, now what about data quality adequacy? By data quality, I mean accuracy, meaning no invalid or missing values. I mean completeness, no nulls or missing rows. Data quality is also going to be a critical element of your application components. The confidence that your management can have in your recommendations is highly dependent on the data quality in the data sources. Here are some example questions. How do we know that the quality of the data you employed is sufficient to support the model comprehensively? How deeply did you profile the data to assess its initial quality and identify actions you undertook to improve the data quality? So next is the machine learning algorithm adequacy. A machine learning algorithm is a procedure that reads the training data to create a machine learning model. The algorithms available to build Graph AI models will vary widely in scope and complexity. The confidence that your management can have in your recommendations is highly dependent on the adequacy of the algorithms. Here are some example questions. How did you determine which algorithms to use to build your model? How did you determine that the algorithms are of adequate quality and contain few software defects? The next topic is the machine learning model adequacy. A machine learning model is an object that is saved after running the machine learning algorithm that's reading your training data. The model consists of the rules, numbers, and any other algorithm-specific data structures that are required to make predictions when the model uses real-world data. Graph AI models vary widely in scope and complexity. So again, the confidence that management can have in your recommendations is highly dependent on the adequacy of the model. Here are some questions that will illuminate that adequacy. How do we know that the model is appropriate for the business situation we're trying to model? What effort did you make to recognize bias in your model? So understand the data elements. Some data elements or features are always more important in their impact on the model results than others. The confidence you can have is highly dependent on the project team having a good understanding of which data elements are more important. So here are some example questions. Which data elements are your algorithms most sensitive to? How did you ensure that the data quality for most critical data elements is sufficient? How did you determine that the similarly named data elements across your data sources are in fact identical or not to avoid misunderstanding of the data meanings? Attention to responsible AI. Responsible AI is about ethics. Ethics is an awkward, abstract topic for most of us. In their enthusiasm for project work, the team often neglects this topic, even though they are not acting in some unethical way. If you come to believe that the team is consciously acting in an unethical manner, it's time to fire people. The confidence your management can have in your recommendations is dependent on the project team paying at least some attention to responsible AI. Here are some example questions that will illuminate potential issues in your project and team ethics. Have you conducted a fairness and bias assessment of the model results? Did your project involve the risk of treating people fairly, violating human rights, or violating other fundamental values? Explainability of results. Explainable artificial intelligence is a set of processes and methods that allow human end users to comprehend and trust the models created by Graph AI models. The confidence your management can have in your Graph AI-derived recommendations is dependent on the project design, including explainability features. Here are some example questions that will illuminate potential issues. What steps did you take to enhance trust and confidence in the model's results? How would you characterize your model's accuracy, explainability, and transparency? So you may have been paying attention. So this is the last of the 8 topics. So let's switch gears. How will your boss evaluate your answers to the many questions that we've just discussed? I hope you notice that the management doesn't have to be a Graph AI wizard to ask any of the questions we've just discussed. Evaluating your answers will not be that difficult for management because your answers on behalf of the project team will always fit into one of these categories. The first one is blank stares. If you provided blank stares, that means the topic of the question has not been addressed and requires more attention before the recommendation should be adopted. It'll be necessary to add missing skills to your team or even replace your entire team. Another one is lengthy answers filled with lots of data science jargon. If you provided lengthy explanations filled with lots of data science jargon or techno chatter, the topic has not been addressed sufficiently, or worse, your team may lack the critical skills required to deliver confident recommendations. Management confidence in the recommendation should decrease or even disappear when this happens. Or your answer might be, our approach is the same as name one of these hyperscale web giants. This response should decrease management's confidence because your problems are only rarely the same as theirs. Now, your responses could describe potential undesirable consequences. If you provide a response that describes risks and undesirable consequences, management effort in the recommendations should go up. Your answer describing business implications, if you provide that kind of a response, management's confidence in the recommendation should also increase. The management will know that the team is business focused and not just technology focused. Sometimes if your answers are supported by additional slides, management's confidence should increase significantly. Extra slides mean the team has tried to anticipate likely questions and concerns. So the first three responses will cause management's confidence to decrease or even evaporate. Focus on the last three responses will cause management's confidence to increase. So the message here is be prepared for a wide variety of questions. Answer for a business audience, not a technical. Talk about business risk, business implications of your work. We're outsourcing all our critical business decisions to a flawed AI model with dubious data. What could possibly go wrong? Cartoonists are good at ridiculous exaggeration. Don't oversell your results and don't wildly overstate expected benefits. I hope I've provided you with multiple ideas to avoid ending up in this predicament with your Graph AI work. So Graph AI projects must address many topics to deliver a high confidence set of recommendations. The questions you can anticipate from your senior executives will fall into these 8 topics: accuracy of business opportunity, the data quality, the algorithm accuracy, the model adequacy, the understanding your data elements, attention to responsible AI, explainability of results. Responding accurately and confidently to the non-technical questions for the topics I've presented will cause your boss to accept your Graph AI-derived recommendations. You'll be the hero that's advancing innovation in your company. That's how you achieve success as a project team. So my recommendations to you are to focus on describing the business value that can be derived from your work during your presentation. Ignore the technical details, even though you've been immersed in them for months and are proud of the technical work that's been accomplished. Answer the relevant questions I described in my presentation today during the course of your project to assure management that your project design has comprehensively addressed these questions, and the project recommendations are accepted and not subject to challenge due to a lack of management understanding or outright skepticism. Do not explicitly discuss any of these questions or your answers during the formal part of your presentation to management. You'll mire yourself and your audience in the detail. You'll kill the confidence you're trying to build. Answer only the questions that are raised by your boss. Try to anticipate some of the questions and prepare slides that illustrate your answers. Only show these slides if the related question arises. When the audience sees slides that are not part of your planned set, that builds an enormous amount of confidence. So, will your boss accept your Graph AI-derived recommendations? I hope I've shared some ideas that you can apply to improve the success of your Graph AI projects. Here's my contact information if you want to hold a discussion or ask a question later. Now, the following slides contain an extensive bibliography for the topic of this presentation. I invite you to explore it. Now we have time for questions and discussion.